Hello everyone and welcome back to the offline video series of Biology of Class 6. So today in this video we are going to start with one of the most important and major organ in respiratory system, that is lungs. So before we start with the organ lungs, let us revise what we studied in the previous video. So in previous video we studied about what is respiration, what are the types of respiration, and what is the respiratory passage, means what are the organs which are involved in respiration. So respiration is the process of breathing which requires or utilizes the oxygen, and this oxygen is utilized by breaking down of glucose through the process of digestion. Now, proceeding further with the types of respiration. Based on utilization of oxygen, there are two types of respiration, that is aerobic and anaerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration, oxygen is utilized, and in case of anaerobic respiration, oxygen is not utilized. Now, proceeding further with the next important topic which we studied in our previous offline video, that is respiratory system in human beings. So, the respiratory system in human beings involves organs like nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, etc. So, we started with first organ, nose. Nose is the first opening and entry point for air to enter inside our body. Each opening of nose is called as nostrils, and each nostril is associated with a nasal chamber inside. This nasal chamber from inside consists of inner thick lining of mucus which prevents the entry of unnecessary microorganisms and bacteria. And apart from these, even the nasal passage or the nostrils also consist of ciliated hair-like projections which also functions the same. They also protects the nasal chamber and the nasal cavity from entry of any external threat like bacteria, unnecessary microorganism, dust particles, etc. This nasal chamber warms the air which is further going to pass in the lungs. Apart from these, the inner lining of nasal chamber has some specialized cells which are used for smell. The next organ after nose is pharynx, which is the common passage for wind and food both. This is also called as throat, which is present behind the mouth portion. After pharynx, the next organ was larynx. Larynx consists of a voice box nearby it. This voice box consists of two vocal cords. As the air is expelled out through the mouth, these vocal cords vibrates and sound is produced. After larynx, we studied about the trachea. Trachea is also called as windpipe. It is the nasal passage which is present at the front portion of the neck, and at the back portion of the neck is the food pipe. Further, this trachea is divided into two main branches and they are called as bronchi. Bronchi is the plural form and bronchus is the singular form. Further, each bronchus is again divided into hair-like sub-branches. They are called as bronchioles. At the end of each bronchiole, microscopic air sacs are present and they are called as alveoli. Alveoli is the plural form and alveolus is the singular form. The function of these alveoli is exchange of gases or the process of diffusion with the blood capillaries which are surrounded to the walls of alveoli. The walls of alveoli are very thin and permeable so that it easily allows the exchange of gases. These were the topics which we studied in our previous videos. Now, starting with the one of the most important organ which involves in respiratory system, that is lungs. Lungs are the pink colored spongy organs which are present in the chest portion, which are rest on the diaphragm. Diaphragm is the organ which gives a support to the lungs, and also it divides the body into two main cavities. The above portion of the diaphragm is called as chest cavity, and the below portion of diaphragm is called as abdominal cavity. Lungs are highly elastic muscular organs which are protected by rib cage. The left lung is slightly smaller as compared to the right lung, and left lung is two-lobed and right lung is three-lobed. Both the lungs are protected with two membranes, inner membrane and outer membrane. The inner membrane and outer membrane of the lungs is filled with a specific fluid which acts as an shock absorber, and it also protects the lungs from any kind of external threat or mechanical injury. The next topic which we are going to study in this video is gaseous exchange in lungs, or the process of diffusion or the process of exchange of O2 and CO2 between alveoli and blood capillaries. So, when the air passes from nose to the trachea, further it passes from trachea to bronchi and from bronchi to bronchioles. As the air passes up to alveoli from bronchioles, these walls of alveoli are being surrounded with the blood capillaries. These blood capillaries has CO2 with it, while the air which is being inhaled in through nose and which is passed up to the alveoli through the whole respiratory passage consists of oxygen in it. Now, exchange of O2 and CO2 takes place between the walls of blood capillaries and the walls of alveoli. As I told you, the walls of alveoli are quite thin and permeable, which easily allows the exchange of gases between any surrounding source. So, walls of alveoli are surrounded with the blood capillaries. These blood capillaries consist of CO2 in it, and alveoli consist of O2 along with the air. So, there is an exchange of O2 and CO2 between alveoli and blood capillaries. So, let us have a look on the diagram to understand this process of exchange of gases between alveoli and blood capillaries. This is the diagram of gaseous exchange in an alveolus. You can see the outer part is the blood capillary itself, which contains RBCs inside it, and the inner whitish part is the alveolus. So the blood capillaries consist of CO2 inside it, while the alveolus consists of O2 inside it. Now the exchange of O2 and CO2 takes place between the alveolus and blood capillaries with the help of the thick wall of alveolus, which is shown in the diagram. So, after this topic, the next topic which we are going to study is phases of respiration. That means the steps which are involved in respiration. So, usually there are three main phases of respiration. First one is breathing, second one is gaseous transport, and third one is cellular respiration. So, one by one we will study each of these phases. So, starting with the breathing. So, breathing is the first step or phase in the process of respiration. Usually, breathing occurs through organ called as nose, which I already told you. Nose is the entry point for the air to go inside the respiratory passage. This nose consists of two openings called as nostrils, and further it is associated with nasal chamber, which we already discussed in our previous video and in this video while revision also. Now this process of taking in the air through nose is called as inhalation, and the process of giving out the air through nose is called as exhalation. So after inhalation, the air passes from nostrils to nasal chamber, and later it passes to pharynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles and up to the alveoli. After the process of exchange of gases is completed, it is expelled out or pushed out in the reverse manner, that is from alveoli to bronchioles, from bronchioles to bronchi, from bronchi to trachea and later to the nasal chamber, and then it is forced out to the nose. So this is the process of breathing, that is drawing it and drawing out of air. Breathing in and breathing out of air. Taking in of O2 and giving out of CO2. The next or the second phase of respiration is gaseous transport. Gaseous transport means exchange of gases between the walls of alveoli and the blood capillaries which are surrounded outside of that alveoli. So the oxygen which is been taken in through the inhaled air through nose passes up to the alveoli into the lungs. There it is been absorbed by the blood which is present in the lungs, and later it combines with the hemoglobin which is present in the RBCs. RBCs means red blood cells. So these RBCs or red blood cells consist of hemoglobin pigments inside it. So these hemoglobin pigments combines with the oxygen which is being absorbed by the blood present in the lungs, and later it is being passed to all the different body tissues, body cells and different body parts. As it is utilized, CO2 is released from different body tissues, cells and body parts. This released CO2 or carbon dioxide is brought back to the alveoli which is present in the lungs, and later it is being passed back through the respiratory passage to the nose, and then it is exhaled out through the nose. So this is the complete process in which we take in O2 and give out CO2. So this was the basic concept or process of gaseous exchange. Now the next phase or the last third phase which we are going to study of respiration is the cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is also called as internal respiration, as it takes place into the internal part of body cells. In this process of cellular respiration, oxidation of glucose takes place, and further it releases or it is converted into adenosine triphosphate molecules. Adenosine triphosphate means ATP molecules. These molecules are released by a particular and specialized cell organelle which is present in the human body cell, that is mitochondria. Mitochondria is the only cell organelle which releases adenosine triphosphate molecules, that is ATP molecules, which are also called as energy molecules. These molecules are used for our day-to-day activities and our regular functioning of the body. Along with the ATP molecules, CO2 and water are the two byproducts which are released by mitochondria from the cell. So as the oxidation of glucose takes place, mitochondria releases ATP energy molecules, and later it is being utilized for day-to-day functioning and activities of our human body. As a byproduct, carbon dioxide and water are released. So water is utilized for hydration of body, but CO2 is released out from the nose, as the process of exhalation.